Hi guys, I'm going to take up your homework from the Cladogram assignment. So we're looking at page 23, number 1. It says, sketch figure 1B on page 21 in your notebook and answer the following questions. So if you looked at figure number 1 on page 21, it's the figure of the bat, the fox, and the seagull. So it says, indicate the location of the species that is the most recent ancestor of foxes and bats. So what a cladogram is showing you is this, okay? At the tips of all these branches, that shows you the most recent organism in terms of evolution. The branches indicate common ancestors. So in other words, this branch here indicates changes along the way. So we didn't just get to the bat, we had other forms of organisms here, okay? And they eventually evolved into the bat. So let me just review the question then. The most recent common ancestor of foxes and bats. So foxes and bats would merge right here, and I just called that ancestor A, okay? Now, the next question says the most recent common ancestor of all three species. So again, if we look at the seagull, the fox, and the bat, all three species are going to merge right here, and that would be this organism, so that's the location, and I just called that organism B because we don't know what it is, all right? Then it says in B, based on this tree, is a bird more closely related to a fox or to a bat, and explain your reasoning. So we're looking at a bird versus a fox and a bird versus a bat, and you can see on this phylogenetic tree that the bird is more closely related to the fox. You might think it's the bat, but remember you have these wings not being the same in structure as those wings, okay? So the bat developed, it was a rodent, and it developed wings later on in life. It didn't have the wings at the beginning. So that's an analogous structure. So the bird is more closely related to the fox because the distance between the bird and the fox is less than the distance between the bird and the bat. Question 2A says, in your notebook, sketch the phylogenetic tree in figure 7. So this is what we're looking at. Do not include the colored outline, so they didn't want you to color for some reason. Question A, the smallest clade that contains the bat and the rabbit. So we've got a bat here and a rabbit here. So don't draw in your textbooks. This is the smallest clade that would contain the bat and the rabbit. Okay, so you'd have to encase the bat, rat, and rabbit together. All right, oops, I've got a bad eraser. Okay, and then the next one says the smallest clade that contains the seal and the rat. So for that one, you would have encased these three organisms here, the seal, the bat, and the rat. Okay, so that's your clade. And that's the reason they didn't want you to draw the colored clades in, because this would be a clade here, and that's a clade, and they wanted you to move outside of those clades. Okay, so hopefully you understand that. And then I gave you these three questions here. Why is a classification system based on relatedness more objective than a classification system based on the comparison of observed characteristics? In other words, excellent example right here. You could look at the bird and you could look at the bat and you could say, well, they've got to be more closely related because they have these little bodies and they've got legs coming out and they've got wings, okay? But in fact, if you looked at the DNA, you would see that the seagull is more closely related to the fox than to the bat. And so the question asks you, why is a classification system based on relatedness more objective? It's because DNA doesn't lie, okay? So we can actually trace and see how DNA has mutated over many, many years, and we can see how closely related organisms are based on the similarity of their DNA, all right? Question number 3 says, what do the tips and the branches of a phylogenetic tree represent? So the tips represent the most recent organism on that branch, okay? And then the branches represent organisms that have changed along the way. So A's ancestors are represented here. B's ancestors are represented here, all right? Question number 9, which colored groups represent a clade? So they've already shown you by coloring them. So orange, green, purple. All right, so they've represented those clades. How do you get there? You have to look at this branch here. Okay, so this is the original organism, and then it went off in one direction and it went off in this direction. Okay, so purple and green, that's very obvious. And then when we continue, we know that these organisms, because they're in the same clade, because they've colored them the same, must be very related. And then all of a sudden over here, these two organisms have split off from each other and they've become different. Okay, so in theory, this could actually be a clade here too. Okay, just so you know, in case you're wondering. But because they've colored them, they've already divided them into the most related clades. Are the orange groups more or less closely related to the green groups than they are to the pink groups? So that being pink, it looks purple to me. Orange is more closely related to green than it is to pink because it is closer in terms of its evolution. You can see that the branch went this way and this way. Purple or pink went off on its own direction, and then orange emerged from green. So orange is more closely related to green. Okay. You know, you've got a quiz coming up. The quiz will not ask you questions about clades. So clades are just something that I would normally teach. I would normally probably put on a quiz, but I'm telling you, I'm not quizzing them. I just wanted you to have the experience of seeing it, because if you are really enjoying biology and science and you're going to go into this, there's a really good chance you're going to be expected to understand these clades in first or second year of university. So it's good that you've seen them and you can reason through them.